David Cameron didn't get approval from Parliament first, and this has caused a lot of division, should he have done. I have to say my initial reaction on this is I always feel very sorry for families when their children are involved, and they may or may not have known, the families saying that they didn't know their children were involved. But when I read about the plot that was foiled, this was attacks planned on VE Day, VJ Day, Armed Forces Day, huge celebrations, huge anniversaries with a lot of people involved. I have to say I really wasn't shedding any tears for two terrorists, in my opinion, British or not. You know, they chose to go there and join ISIS and fight with them against us. So, in my opinion, David Cameron is the Prime Minister. We put him in charge, and to me he had to make, it seems, a quick decision, I'm sure, with lots of information coming from the security services, and I go, that's why we put these people in these positions of power. So, for me, I don't have a problem with it.
I hear what you're saying, and I think you've got a very strong argument, and clearly the audience agree with you. Nevertheless, I do think we live in a democracy, and I think something like this is a game changer. I think he should have gone to Parliament, he should have recalled Parliament, or he should have recalled the Defence Committee or a key committee that was made up of MPs of all parties to authorise this drone strike. I'm not happy that none of the people who are democratically elected in this country took part in this decision.
Would
I think it was
a high to do that? I mean,
yes,
if the security forces are coming to you and saying, right, this guy, we know he's about to, you know, send all this information of how that they can carry out this terrorist attack.
Well, you can always
maybe
make that
time
argument.
saying he's going to be there and we can get him now.
Well, you can always make that argument, but I think that David Cameron had a vote in August 2013 about whether we should go into war in Syria, and MPs voted against it. Now it seems we're escalating this war by stealth. What I would like to see is another vote on whether we should go into Syria again, and let everybody vote. Do not escalate it by stealth. And the final thing I'd say is Britain a safer place as a result of this drone strike? Because is the threat of attack on this country lessened? I say not.
Well, it might be a deterrent.
I say not.
It could be a deterrent.
I don't think
it
will make any difference to the fanatics out in Syria.
You might be right, because they are exactly that, fanatics. What we're not doing is sitting here saying how terrible the loss of life during the VE Day celebrations, the Armed Forces Day, when that terrible terrorist plot that we didn't foil actually happened on the streets of London.
Yeah, but
if we were sitting here saying that,
yes,
and we found out they'd had that information and not done anything about it, we'd be complaining.
Correct, but the timing of it, to coincide with the day where we celebrate the Queen being the longest-serving monarch ever, you've got to wonder about the timing of it.
I do think that when it comes to the ins and outs of this particular situation, I do think it is very difficult for us to kind of try and pick it apart and say what should have happened and what shouldn't have happened. But one thing that I am very uncomfortable with is the coverage and the almost celebratory reaction to the killing of two human beings.
They got what they deserved.
I find that very uncomfortable, and I'm not going to celebrate the murder of anyone. And for me, I feel that, for instance, if David Cameron had allowed someone to go into a prison and kill someone who had committed a heinous crime, there would have been complete outrage. But because it's in this setting,
after the event.
Where
this is stopping that happening
after
the event.
But killing anyone does not solve a problem. And I'm not saying that.
Yes, it did solve a problem. It solved them killing a lot of people in this country.
And we should celebrate
that.
Well,
absolutely. I totally celebrate it. I totally celebrate what he did.
Well,
and I totally celebrate the fact that if he hadn't have done it and he'd have called Parliament and they'd missed the opportunity, he would have been slated even more, saying he's not protecting our country. Absolutely. He must have known this debate was going to happen, but he took it on himself as the Prime Minister, as in charge of this country, really, of saying, we haven't got time for this, we need to get them now. And I think he's absolutely right. And will I shed a tear? Absolutely not. Okay, and if it means 2 less terrorists, great.
OK, I do understand. OK. I do understand that the Prime Minister has to make difficult decisions. I do understand that we live in a society where people react with violence when it comes to certain issues. But should we be celebrating Should we be celebrating? We should be celebrating
I'm not
murder
sure we're
because you're
celebrating, but
killing
as I
another
said-
human being.
No,
Those are the
absolutely not.
facts.
But
We're
talking
not-
about justification,
We're not talking about
let me just remind you that Tony Blair justified a war on the basis of weapons of mass destruction, which have
weren't
never
there.
been
Yes.
found.
Well, I'm
So,
sure
you
have
know.
been found. You can't compare that to this because we know and they know that these were terrorists.
Well, we're still taking
I'd
David
like to
Cameron's
just
word
ask-
for it.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask the audience, just by a show of hands, do you think the Prime Minister, David Cameron, was right to authorise this drone attack?
Wow.
Say that's pretty much a majority there.
You know, I find it difficult even today. I can feel my anxiety rising because I'm actually talking about it. But one of the reasons I want to is because I had a very public one here moments before going on air, and it ended up that luckily, lovely Ruth was doing this morning. She raced across and took over, and that was because my marriage had broke down just a few weeks before.